and I generally use it on an alternate day basis. I do not give an antifungal shampoo over here. I use a mild baby shampoo. The only roll of oil over here that I use is 10 minutes before bath. I tell them to apply it on the scalp, on the affected area, to soften the scales. And whenever they are washing it with a baby shampoo, or for example with an antifungal shampoo, it's always a great idea to tell them to use a baby toothbrush to gently scrub that area in a circular motion so that the scales get dislodged. And once you have washed it off, in after 2 or 3 washes, the scales literally peel themselves off. So that's all that I tell them to. And after that,
what was the chemical you named?
Desonide
Desonide
lotion.
Desonide lotion. Yes.
How it comes to market?
Sorry,
Desonide
sir?
only, sir.
Desonide only is the name of the molecule, sir. Yeah.
Yes.
It's in a lotion.
No, the name is Desoven.
The brand names are...
The brand name is Desoven,
name is
but
Desoven.
it's Desonide is the molecule.
Yes. And also Atonite, sir. It also comes as a
Gel
brand
formulation.
called Atonite. Yes. In a gel
Sometimes you can use even fluticasone also.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when ma'am was talking about the steroids, sir, we were saying that don't use mometasone for any indication. Use fluticasone and below. Fluticasone, Desonide, and hydrocortisone. These are 3 absolutely safe to use steroids.
1%
Obviously for a
1% hydrocortisone. 1% hydrocortisone.
Okay, true.
So since we mentioned diaper rashes, now I'm almost about to finish my presentation. But since we did mention diaper rashes, Dr. Ravindra, since you mentioned diaper rashes most commonly, I just wanted to show this one slide where, we all treat diaper rashes. Most of my pediatrician colleagues treat them as irritant contact dermatitis to urine, feces, and the, various cofactors which destroy the local milieu like friction and, a raised pH because of the enzymatic activity, colonization. And obviously the final sequelae can even become something of an erosive dermatitis, which we know. But there are 4 other types of diaper rashes which we should not miss. And I'm just going to show you, again, allergic contact dermatitis is now rare. It used to be common when cloth diapers were used with materials nowadays which are, hypoallergenic and inert. But we still do see them. Samipa is shaking her head.
Because I want to add in over here, allergic contact dermatitis to cloth we are not seeing, or to other factors we are not seeing, but there's a lot of usage of wet wipes, and the preservative in it is causing very bad allergic contact dermatitis. So allergic contact dermatitis, again, it has come back, but not to the same allergen. The allergen has become different now. So wet wipes is something which I generally tell patients to completely avoid in any patient, whether they have a diaper rash or whether they don't.
Drying is very important.
Correct. Then we have Candidal intertrigo, which is quite commonly missed. It is more common than we think it is. Seborrheic dermatitis, as sir, you've already mentioned, you should always take a history of atopic dermatitis. So right when you were asking for a history of atopy, even in cradle cap, that is a good practice to do. And granuloma gluteal infantum is something which only we see as dermatologists, but if you can recognize it, again, there is a component of steroids in this and a component of, candidal infection. I'm just going to show you, one slide. So the marker here, and Archana ma'am, if you would want to take this, I'll be okay. Or if you want me to go ahead, I will.
For intertrigo?
I was just trying to show, ma'am, that in ICT, the folds.
Okay, so folds are involved and the convexities are,
yes.
But in a candidal intertrigo, you see satellite.
Exactly. So in candidiasis, you will always see these satellite lesions, like lesions away from the main lesion. So that is a good tell for intertrigo. And
intertrigo can happen even in the elbows. I have seen in the
neck,
popliteal fossa, neck is very common.
Yes.
So even hands, so because the baby keeps the fingers in the feast.
So satellite lesion is a clue for candidiasis.
Candidiasis, yes, sir.
Okay. Yes.
And if you see a picture like this where the vault or the fold is paired, then it is a napkin dermatitis. It is directly flushed with the napkin. So that is one way to differentiate.
So that's why maybe sometimes pediatrician mixed the treatment. Sometimes giving treatment for diaper rash like zinc or whatever, and adding with some antifungal.
Yeah, great.
Although what good pediatrician do, they will search for other fungal infection like oral thrush, If that is there, we do agree with that there is pure fungal infection. If not, then we can mix like Jugaad system.
I think that's very good, sir. I'm very happy to hear that. And even Archana ma'am and Sameepa were all shaking our heads. I think that's a good practice. If it gets to this stage, this is somewhere where you should refer. This is because of candidiasis, like candidal infection, and overuse of corticosteroid. So this is something where if the lesions become purple nodules, you have to refer to a dermatologist, because this is a type of an infantile granuloma where you have to treat it very, very specifically. So this is something where I would advise, pediatricians to refer out and not treat on their own. Again, just wanted to add a slide. So sometimes rashes can look very, very bad. We've discussed ETN and TNMP. This is another such rash. It's called acute hemorrhagic edema of infancy. It looks like small vessel vasculitis, but actually when you do a biopsy, you don't find any perivascular IgA, or for that matter, nothing systemic. Maybe apart from constitutional symptoms, you don't find any other signs of vasculitis.
No, the baby is healthy always.
Absolutely fine.
Yes.
Absolutely healthy. And the clue is involvement of the pinna.
The pinna.
So that is the clue, and and the baby is healthy otherwise, laughing, smiling, always. And the presentation is very dramatic, and I've seen even our colleagues will get everything connective tissue profile done, and then send the baby for interpretation.
So the clue here is that the baby is very healthy. I marked out the pinna just to show you. The pinna is involved. And nothing, there are no gastric symptoms, no joint pains, no other system involved but for these purpuric lesions on the skin. So everything that is purpuric is not vasculitis, but I think we need a separate lecture or a separate webinar for that, in fact. Dr. Ravindra, I'm going to close with infantile hemangioma.
Just now, one thing to add on this slide. As a pediatrician, I will search for child abuse also because of this slide,
Yeah,
absolutely.
True.
Agreed.
Especially in a female child.
Yes. Absolutely. True. Yes.
So with infantile hemangioma, Ravindra sir, are you looking for something else when you find patients with an infantile hemangioma? And when do you decide to treat?
Yeah. So hemangioma, I am getting in my own practice. Sometimes before, coming, in utero, sometimes evolving after a few days of life or whatever. I am looking for, as a pediatrician, like whatever it is nearer to the brain, that is something serious for us. Otherwise, away from brain or away from other parts of body, just I tell them to go to dermatologist or whatever the treatments are there. One thing to add, one of my colleagues used, I think,
propranolol?
Yes. Tropical propranolol.
Yeah. Timolol.
Yeah, Timolol, yes. So I learned from them. He is from Patna, and I advised for one family. He didn't get that medicine. So I don't have much idea. Before I know, I think some enormous saline inoculation or whatever. I don't have much idea about the treatment of this one. So I'm getting this hemangioma.
Agreed, sir. Archana ma'am, you have a lot of work in infantile hemangiomas. What else would you want pediatricians to look for when they see a hemangioma?
Okay, so the site is very important, whether it is close to the vital, whether it is close to the nose or whether it is close to the lip, and if it is interfering with the feeding, whether it is close to the external genitalia, especially in females, girl child neonates and infants, because then they're likely to ulcerate. So they are called complicated hemangioma. In that case, treatment is essential. Otherwise, you can leave them alone. Second thing is number. If the number is more than 5 and there are different anatomical regions, I always get ultrasonography of the abdomen done to rule out hepatic hemangiomas. And third is if they are present on vital areas, like as you said, that close to the eyes and all, there are different syndromes which need to be evaluated for, like the fasces and lumbar and sacral. And if there is, suppose this is a head and neck and this is a single lesion with little sister infantile hemangioma, I'll be happy using topical timolol. Topical timolol is available as eye drops, and you can apply it with the with the earbud. I usually tell them to cotton bud or earbud, and tell them to apply it twice daily. And if the it's a complicated hemangioma, it's ulcerated, it's hemorrhagic, if it is aggressively increasing in size or near the vital organs, then I prefer propranolol. But before that, I always send the child to a pediatrician friend. We have developed this, who will rule out, get an ECG done and rule out any AV. Yeah.
Yes.
And then I start with lower dose, 1 milligram, and then I can go up to 2 milligram with the instructions, of course, to the mother that you have to feed the child, because hypoglycemia and wheezing are the commonest side effects.
How
And
much
the results are
medicine?
dramatic. Pardon?
What's the response of Timolol? How much do you
Very
see the response of that
Oh,
one? I mean,
excellent.
Excellent
Superb.
response.
Excellent.
because when I got this word from one of my friend, he saw it on Facebook. Really, it was on the elbow of a child, and that helped a lot.
Yeah.
So I don't have any idea before that one when he posted. Before he posted.
Now people are using atenolol, itraconazole.
Yes. Itraconazole has now been reported.
Yeah.
But,
Again, serendipity.